Starting October 1st of 2020, if you don't have one of these, you're not getting on the plane. Stay tuned to find out what you need in order to board the plane. What's up, everybody? It's Nick from Who Dat Travel, and today we're here to talk about the Real ID and how it's going to affect you in coming up on October 1st of 2020. Now let's talk a little bit about what the Real ID is and a little of history about how it came to be. All right, I'm not going to lie. This whole I need a new ID to fly thing kind of snuck up on me. So I did a little research of what Real ID is and why it came to be. And what I found out is it was passed by Congress in 2005. It was called the Real ID Act, and it was enacted by the 9/11 Commission's recommendation that the federal government, quote, set standards for the issuance of sources of identification, such as a driver's license. Now that's right from the DHS website. So what does all this mean in layman's terms? Well, what it means is that the federal government wants us to have additional documentation showing that we are who we really say we are when we go and get our IDs. Now, this was aimed at eliminating airline terrorism by increasing the requirements to obtain documents granting access to domestic planes. Yeah, I get it. It took almost 19 years to enact this after the events of September 11th. We call that moving at the speed of government. Now, yes, it takes time to set all this up. And as of September 5th of 2019, all 50 states and territories are fully compliant with the Real ID requirements. So what you need to do is basically go get a new driver's license. Now, I will admit, before you run out to your Department of Motor Vehicles or Secretary of State's office, check your ID. How you're going to find out if you have a Real ID is most every Real ID compliant card is going to have some type of star up in the upper right-hand corner. So starting October 1st of 2020, if you don't have a valid Real ID, you will be turned away at security and unable to board your plane. However, there are different identifications that will allow you to board the plane. Some of these are a U.S. passport, a DHS Trusted Traveler Card like Global Entry, Nexus, a U.S. Department of Defense ID, a Common Access Card from the military, and several other identifications that can be found on TSA.gov's website. Now, I'm sure a burning question in a lot of your minds is, will my minor need to have this driver's license or identification card to fly domestically? The answer is no. TSA does not require children under 18 to provide identification when traveling with a companion within the United States. However, the companion will need to have an acceptable form of identification. So the Real ID isn't a substitute for a passport for international travel. And there's also a few other things that a Real ID doesn't really affect. Voting, it doesn't affect. Applying to receive federal benefits, it doesn't affect. Being licensed to drive in your state, it doesn't affect. Really, it only affects flying domestically and entering a federal building. And, well, also getting into a nuclear power plant. However, that's really not high on most people's lists. So do you absolutely have to have a Real ID? Well, no. If you're under 18, you don't have to have one. If you're only going to use your ID for identification purposes, you don't need one. And if you don't mind bringing a TSA-approved ID like a passport along when you fly, well, you don't need one there either. However, you do need one if you want to fly with your state-issued ID, if you don't have a passport, or if you need to visit a secure federal facility, such as a military base. My suggestion to you before October 1st of 2020, I'd pull out your ID and see if you've got that star in the upper right-hand corner. If you don't, check your website for your DMV or your SOS office and find out what the necessary documentation to bring in your local area is. go ahead and gather up that information. Go on down to your local Secretary of State or Department of Motor Vehicles and grab yourself a new ID card. So in my opinion, no matter if you're someone who flies all of the time or just someone who travels once in a great while, it's never a bad idea to have something that you're carrying around in your wallet or purse that allows you to get on a flight. Again, I'm Nick from Who Dat Travel. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to be notified when I release a new video. Thanks, and have a great day.